Good morning. My name is Dan Shawolf. I'm on the business operations team at AtScale. Today we have Dave Mariani, our Chief Strategy Officer, providing a demonstration of how AtScale works with AWS Redshift. AtScale empowers enterprises to seamlessly migrate to and accelerate business adoption of cloud data platforms like Redshift, Snowflake, and Google BigQuery. If you'd like to learn more about how we work within a specific data architecture, we're happy to answer any questions at the end of today's demo. For those new to AtScale, we are a virtual data warehouse. We work with enterprises to modernize their analytics infrastructure. Our customers span all major verticals and include the likes of JP Morgan Chase, TD Bank, Cigna, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Toyota. These customers rely on us to help with several data modernization initiatives, including one, accelerating cloud data transformation without disrupting the day-to-day analytics of the business. Two, creating a single virtualized view of their enterprise data, no matter where it is stored. Three, optimizing query performance and cost. And four, enabling the security and governance controls around their analytical data to meet the demands of today's modern enterprise. In this demo, we will highlight some specific examples of how we help our customers achieve these data modernization initiatives with Redshift as the data platform. Again, if you have questions, please enter them in the questions section of the webinar, and we'll try to get to them at the end or follow up with you individually after the demo. With that, I'll hand it over to Dave.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everybody. This is Dave Mariani. I'm the co-founder and Chief Strategy Officer for AtScale. So what I'd like to do today is take you for a very quick but deep tour of the AtScale platform. I'm going to go fast, so you can always watch this video again because I want to cover as much ground as we possibly can. First, a few slides just to set us up so you can get an orientation about how AtScale works and the value that we provide. So, particularly for Redshift, if you're looking to move to Redshift, we can really help you accelerate your move there by seamlessly porting your applications and your BI tools. Because AtScale works with all your existing infrastructure, data platforms, as well as BI tools, we can make that leap to Amazon Redshift without having to rewrite your reports or applications. We're going to show you how we can dramatically improve performance of Redshift. So even though Redshift is very fast, AtScale can provide BI speed types of queries regardless of the size of your data. So we make Redshift even better. And we'll also make Redshift scale very well. A lot of complaints are around concurrency when it comes to lots of users on Redshift. Because of our adaptive cache and because we make queries run faster, we're able to increase scalability and concurrency by orders of magnitude for your Redshift instance. We also allow you to get the most out of Redshift, which means you can have fewer nodes and get better performance, again, using AtScale's caching layer. And of course, you get OLAP. So OLAP directly on Redshift. So no movement of data, no building of physical cubes. We use Redshift as a native data store, but we provide a multi-dimensional interface, which means you get to connect to Redshift through Excel and connect live through Excel. And I'll show you that in the demonstration. A lot of different companies have chosen AtScale, from financial services, healthcare, retail, and manufacturing. Lots of other customers besides these are taking advantage of AtScale. The common denominator here is that they're all looking to make and modernize their data platforms. The first wave was moving from a data warehouse to a data lake like Hadoop. The second wave that we're witnessing is moving from on-prem to the cloud, like you may be considering using Redshift. So what AtScale does, and the reason why I started the company, is that what you see here on the left was my infrastructure at Yahoo. It looks pretty complicated. Your infrastructure might be more complicated, but ultimately trying to make relational databases like Oracle work for Yahoo-sized data didn't work for us. We created Hadoop and incubated the Hadoop project to solve this problem, but it actually made my problem worse for BI. Because Hadoop was incompatible with my MicroStrategy instances, my Tableau instances, my Click instances, and everybody wanted to use Excel as their choice of BI tool to do that last mile of analytics. We couldn't do that. Had lots of data movement here, lots of reformatting of data, no way to secure it, no way to ensure that everybody's speaking the same language. With AtScale, I have one semantic layer, one virtual data warehouse, which means that we're data scale. And we also can connect anything. So whether it's live connection through Excel or connection with excellent BI tools like Tableau and Click and Power BI and MicroStrategy, we got you covered. And everybody will be speaking the same language. Everybody will be governed. Their access will be secured the same way. And they'll all get speed of thought performance without having to reformat data or load it or move it. The AtScale virtual data warehouse is made up of these components. We're connecting the queriers to the data platforms. And you can see the wide range of data platforms from relational data warehouses to data lake and Hadoop-based data engines to, of course, the new query-based, cloud query-based engines like Redshift, which we'll be talking about today. You can connect to AtScale any way you want, through OLAP or through SQL. And that's very unique for us and for the AtScale platform, which means you can support your live Excel users and your OLAP users, so you can leverage AtScale's universal semantic layer, but also be compatible with the new tools that speak SQL. What you're going to see today is you're going to see us create a model on the fly off of raw data using our visual modeler we call Design Center. You're also going to see the power of our OLAP engine, and we're going to be creating that metadata, and you're going to see also the power of our adaptive cache. We're all going to do that without moving data and all do that virtually. OLAP is great for a bunch of different reasons. So what we do for Redshift is allow you to perform all these kinds of calculations server side and at scale. So forget about trying to replicate this in your BI tools or in your dashboards. With AtScale, you can just define them once on the server, and regardless of how it gets consumed, everybody's going to be speaking the same language. And forget about having to do all these different sort of data pipelines and data transformations. Instead, with AtScale, you can be assured that regardless of how your data comes in, you're going to be dealing with one view of that for all your BI tools. So just like at Yahoo, I wanted to eliminate all these different data pipelines, which resulted in completely different answers at the end of the day. With AtScale, you get one virtual view, one definition that's consistent across all your users. Okay, enough of the slides. Off to the demo. I'm going to use the next 15 minutes to actually start and produce a new virtual cube and then query that in Tableau and Excel. And I'm going to start with step one and as a data owner. So as a data owner, I'm going to create a virtual cube and do that in Design Center and then publish that virtual cube. And then I'm going to take off my data owner hat and I'm going to become a business analyst and then query that virtual cube in multiple BI tools. So you can see how that semantic layer works. So let's do it. First of all, I'm going to start with Design Center and show you here, this is what Design Center looks like, and this is where our data warehouses are defined. Today, what we'll be dealing with is we'll be dealing with a Redshift data warehouse, and you can see we have our connection credentials, as well as any sort of S3 buckets all defined right here in our connector screen. I can obviously connect more than Redshift here. I can connect any data source that we talk to, relational or data lake. Today, I'm going to be going one step further and actually showing you how we can use Amazon Redshift Spectrum to actually query raw files in S3 without loading them into our Redshift data warehouse. So let's go and let's start and let's build our first virtual cube. So there's lots of ways of doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new cube. in my Sales Insights project by clicking the New Cube button. I'm going to call that Redshift Demo, and I'm going to create a new virtual cube. So now that I've created that virtual cube, I'll enter what we call our Design Center palette. So this is our canvas, which we're going to actually define. What you see over here is our measures and our dimensions. Right now, we have a blank canvas. So let's start painting. So let's go and let's click and pull up and look at our data sources here. And here's all the data sources that are available in our data warehouse. I'm going to go ahead and look at my demo data source here, or database in Redshift. So I didn't have to import these. AtScale will automatically read the catalog and show any kind of data files or tables that you've told AtScale about. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a customer file. So let's go ahead and let's look at and see what's in that customer file. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a little bit of data wrangling here. So here's my raw data that I see in Redshift. And actually, let's go through. I'm not going to take my customer file. Let's remove that. Instead, I want to go and I want to use my sales log. So let's pull that off instead. And let's explore that. So let's go ahead and do that again. And there's my data. So what we can see here is we have a mismatch of data. We have our product info, you can see as key value pairs. We will come back to that later. You can see we have multi-valued assets, multi-valued columns in sales reasons. You can see we have dates that are numbers, that are strings. I can go ahead and do a simple transformation here with AtScale. Specify the format, for example, of that date, which is currently an integer. Go ahead and preview that, and you'll be able to see right here on my data wrangler, you'll be able to see my transformation. Simple as that. So I can create new columns. Let's do that. Let's create, for example, a sales tax calculation. I can go ahead and create a formula just by typing it in here in my window and testing that syntax. You can create any kind of transformation that your backend can handle. That means UDFs, that means if statements, case statements, regexes, you name it, I can do that. So with AtScale, with my sales tax, you can now see I've computed my sales tax. It's now available for modeling. So let's come back to our canvas here and let's get going. Let's first create some metrics. I'm going to create some metrics in my data set here. I'm going to pull in my sales amount. Now you can see this is going to create a measure. Sales amount, we've normalized the name and we've defaulted its aggregation handling to a sum. This is how OLAP works in AtScale. You're able to do any kind of aggregation that OLAP supports, and that's all going to happen on the fly and consistently. So now I've added, if I go to my preview screen, you can see I've added sales amount as a measure. So let's go and let's keep going. Let's add, let's see, I want to add in order quantity. I want to know how much of each product that we sold. Let's do our sales tax. Remember that calculated column that we created in our Wrangler? I'm going to go ahead and use that in this virtual cube. And let's go and let's say, let's look at, let's count up our unique customers to our website. So I'm going to take the customer key field, which is really a customer key, a cookie, and I'm going to turn it into a distinct count by renaming it and choosing a distinct count as my summary column. So that's how we're going to aggregate it. So now I got some measures. What about dimensions? We want to be able to look at our sales data by time, by product, etc. For that, I'm going to go to our library. So in our library, we can reuse data sets, which now sales log has now become a reusable data set. And I can also use dimensions, which are also reusable. So let's pull onto our canvas our date dimensions. You can see our date dimension has two different hierarchies. It has a week hierarchy and a month hierarchy. I'll pull in our product dimension. You can see it has a hierarchy in it for itself, Product name rolls up to category and line. And then let's pull in our customer dimension. So with AtScale, I can conform dimensions and reuse them across virtual cubes. This is another way we promote reuse, and we promote agility, and we promote consistency that you can apply, and you can lock all these down and secure them any way you want. So how do we then link up these new dimensions to our raw data we see over here? Well, it's simply a matter of dragging and dropping and connecting up, in this case order date, to the right part of the date dimension object. So what did we just do? We actually created a date attributes here folder, and then there's our date hierarchy. So you can see that the order date has now reflected exactly the roll-up that I just connected over here on my date dimension. So it inherited that structure. And I could do the same thing, for example, for my ship date. And I'll do that. Of course, I want to hook up my product, and I'll hook up my product. Of course, if there's a key that's not a one-to-one match, we can of course create calculations and create calculated columns and then join on those keys. And I just hooked up my customer dimension. So you can see that my cube is actually building up very nicely. If I look at that customer dimension, you can see I have geography in there as well as other things. If I double click on that customer dimension, what you'll see is that it actually is its own submodel. And so you can see you can get to be really rich here in rich reuse, object-oriented, and make it all very simple from the 10,000-foot view, but as complex as you want deep down. So remember we had our key value pairs. So AtScale is born for modern analytics and modern data types. We're not going to create ETL to break out color and break out size, for example. With AtScale, we can create virtual columns in place. So we do that by clicking on that product info field. AtScale recognizes that it's key value pairs, and all we need to do is put in the key and AtScale and the type, and AtScale will actually create virtual columns. So now we have color and style. So now to make those part of my virtual cube, all I need to do is drop it in, color and style. We didn't have to create any dimension tables. AtScale has done that for you. It's created what we call a degenerate dimension. So we created a star schema without having to create star schema tables. Really important because all that ETL falls to the wayside. No reason to have it. Okay, so we got our virtual cube. I've done my data wrangling. Let's go and publish this cube and make it available for the business. All I need to do is hit that publish button, and now the Redshift demo cube is now ready to go. So let's go, and now I'm going to become and take my hat off as a data owner and become a BI user. And I'm going to start to explore this virtual cube with first Tableau. And so I'm going to log into Tableau. I'm going to log into the AtScale virtual cube. And we'll see what we get. Well, there we go. There's our customer dimension. There's all our data attributes. There's our products. And then here is our sales tax. Remember, that was the calculation that we created virtually. So let's just go back, and just so you can see what you see is what you get. Let's go back and let's go look at that for a second. And you can see that if I look at my Tableau next to my modeler, you can see what you see is what you get. So that is our semantic layer. So let's go run some live queries. So remember, we haven't built anything here. What we just did right there is I ran a live query against Redshift. And let's look at my products, my order quantity by products. You can see how fast that is, and you can see that we're dealing with a bike store. Let's go ahead and let's continue to do some drilling here. And let's go look at my product distribution by color. You can see that was very fast. You can see that we actually unwound that nested field that non-scalar field, and you could see that most of our products don't have color as a attribute. Imagine if you had to create a column in your data warehouse to do that. That column would mostly be sparse and empty. Instead, we're able to leave it like it is in a nested column, but still use it for BI, just like it was a column. So let's go and let's do some time dimension queries. So let's look at order date by year. And let's keep our 2008 year, and let's do a drill down from year to a quarter, for example. And you can see here that we're able to do a drill down and do a drill down on the model. Now I have my quarters, and from quarters I can now go down to month, and AtScale is going to do that all virtually. And it's all doing that virtually, all querying the data in Redshift in place. I'm going to come back to this, and you're going to see that we're going to get much faster the next time around. So that is in Tableau. Let's see what our virtual cube looks like in Excel. So now I'm going to come to my Windows environment. And my Windows environment has gone dark. So let's try this. Let's try bringing this up again. And in my virtual box here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how we can actually query with Excel natively through a live pivot table. So when you think about Excel, you think about Excel being on every desktop. What I'm about to show you here is that there's no reason to actually install drivers on a customer's desktop because AtScale doesn't have drivers. There's no need for drivers. AtScale is going to work natively with Excel that you have without any client-side installation. So let's go ahead and let's get our connection string that we're going to connect to the AtScale service. Let's bring up Excel here. And let's go connect using the native analysis services built-in driver. We're the only ones to be able to do this on the planet. And what it means is I can now go ahead and explore my Redshift demo cube that I just created, but I can do that live and do that live natively in a live Excel pivot table. So we're not importing data. We have our virtual cube right here in our virtual warehouse. So now I can go and look at order quantity by color, and you can see that that's lickety split. And you can also see that that is exactly the same result that I got in Tableau, but now I'm in Excel using the same semantic layer and the same security. Okay, good enough. What was happening behind the scenes? Let's go back to Design Center, and let's look at that last query we just ran. You can see that it ran in 302 milliseconds. And you can see that lightning bolt is there. That means that the adaptive cache already got busy and built and tuned that query based on the first query we did back here on Tableau. So you can see that the query here's the query we intercepted. That's an MDX query. And you can see here's the queries that we ran. We actually ran two queries, one for the totals and one for the body. And you can see that here's the query we generated. You can see where we hit our aggregate cache, and our aggregate cache is, in that case, for that total query, only one row. This is how we make things so much faster for Redshift, is we make Redshift do less work. So you're not rescanning data over and over again, in which case could be billions of rows. We've actually automatically aggregated it based on user behavior to make it fast. Okay, what if I want to add some new data? And I'm going to add some new data by uploading a file from a customer segments file from my file system here. So this is a file that my data scientist gave me, which segmented my customers into a number of different categories. So if I just look at the file here, you can see that here's my file, and I have customer keys and segments. So I've now uploaded that. With Amazon Spectrum, what's so amazing is I can simply create an external table on that raw file. You can see here it is right here. I'm on S3. So I can go ahead and just do that in my little tool here. And what you're going to see here is that I can actually create a virtual table in Redshift without having to actually physically do that. So, and there's my rows in my table. Now in Design Center, all I need to do is go back to Design Center and my virtual cube. So let's do that. Let's go back to my Redshift demo cube. Let's go ahead and go back to my Data Source Explorer. Let's now look at and find that new file that's in Spectrum. So there's my customer segments. I'm going to turn that into a dimension, like so. That makes it a dimension. So I'm now creating a new dimension. I want to make customer key my key, and I want to make segment the actual value. So now I've created a new dimension on my canvas. You can see there's my customer segments. So now all I need to do is link that up by doing like so. And now I have segments that are in my cube. So there it is, customer segments. So all I need to do now is republish that. Come back to my Tableau workbook that you see. You see there's no customer segments dimension right now. But if I go ahead and I hit refresh right here to let Tableau know that there's new data, there's my customer segments. So I've now added a new dimension. Let's get rid of all these nulls. I'll go ahead and add my customer segments to my visualizations by color. And now I'm running a live query against a flat text CSV file that's sitting in S3. And I've integrated this data with Design Center, and I've done a live query with that new data. And I know that there's a lot of frequent shoppers that obviously like newbies like black, and frequent shoppers seem to like multicolors. So there you go. I just did something, integrated new data from a file, from a data scientist into my virtual cube in literally 30 seconds. That would have taken me at Yahoo between 60 and 90 days. So that's, I hope, shows how agile you can be with AtScale, and how powerful this platform can be. In addition to Redshift, we can talk to just about any relational source or Hadoop in the cloud or on-prem and make it all seamless for your users. Thanks, Dan, and that's back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Great demo. We've had the same question come up a couple times, actually. So let's just address this one, and there are a few other ones that we'll get to people individually on. But one question that's come up multiple times just around how AtScale deals with Redshift's concurrency issues. Is that something you could speak to for about a minute here, Dave?
You bet. Well, let me actually go back to I went really fast through our query log here to show you the queries that we were capturing at AtScale and passing on. What's really important here is if I look at that color query again here, you can see that the adaptive cache is actually created based on user behavior, is actually created aggregates. And these aggregates are small, and because they're small, and because we're able to redirect and rewrite queries to hit those aggregates, we can take load off of Redshift and make these queries short-lived. That means we can increase concurrency by orders of magnitude. This is in addition to our query cache. So most of the time, users who are interacting with AtScale will not even hit Redshift. We'll actually hit an in-memory cache on the AtScale server, and we again help concurrency because we're avoiding queries altogether hitting Redshift.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. That'll do it for today's demo. Thanks a lot to everybody who joined. Again, any questions we didn't get to, we'll have members of the team follow up with individually. And if there are any additional questions, you can reach out to your AtScale account team or reach out to us directly through the AtScale website or at hi@atscale.com. This concludes our demo series on cloud data platforms. We'll be back on April 25th, and we're going to start highlighting how AtScale works with specific business use cases across different verticals. And we'll be starting with the retail industry. Thanks again for everyone who joined, and hope everyone has a great day and a great remainder of the week.